For 25 years, people have argued about what actually happens in Mulholland Drive. The answer has been circulating for most of that time. The first 2 hours are a dream, and the final 30 minutes show the woman dreaming it. Solving the structure, though, only opens a deeper question. If Diane Selwyn built this dream to comfort herself, why does it keep turning against her? A monster waits behind a diner before the fantasy even begins. A corpse appears in the exact bed where the dreamer will die. A stage magician announces that everything you are watching is a recording. 3 moments the dream was never supposed to contain, and by the end of this video, you'll see they are the same moment, surfacing at 3 different depths. Carl Jung had a name for the force behind them. He called it the shadow. Strip away the dream, and the story underneath is brutally simple. Lynch scatters it in fragments across the film's final act. Assembled in order, it reads like this. Diane Selwyn came to Hollywood from Deep River, Ontario, a small-town girl who won a jitterbug contest and decided it meant something. When her aunt died and left her some money, she used it to chase acting. The film tells us exactly how far she got. She auditioned for the lead in a picture called The Sylvia North Story. The director didn't think much of her. The role went to another actress, Camilla Rhodes. What should have been the end of a rivalry became the beginning of a love affair. Camilla was everything Diane wanted to be, magnetic, effortless, wanted by everyone in the room. Diane got small parts through Camilla's influence. Camilla got Diane's devotion. The imbalance was structural from the start. One career kept rising, the other stalled somewhere between background roles and hope. Then, Camilla started pulling away. On a film set, Diane stood watching as the director, Adam Kesher, kissed Camilla in front of her. Soon after came the sentence every abandoned lover recognizes, "We shouldn't do this anymore," and then the cruelest scene in the reality timeline, the party on Mulholland Drive. Camilla invites Diane personally, sends a car, walks her up a private shortcut to the house, then spends the evening dismantling her in public. Diane retells her own failures over dinner while strangers smile politely. Adam and Camilla announce their engagement through giggles, never quite finishing the sentence. Camilla kisses another woman at the table and watches Diane watch. Every humiliation arrives wrapped as hospitality. Sometime later, Diane sits across from a hitman in a diner called Winky's. She slides Camilla's photograph across the table and says, "This is the girl." The money changes hands, and the hitman gives her one last exit. "Once you hand that over to me, it's a done deal. Are you sure you want this? More than anything in this world." He tells her that when the job is done, she'll find a blue key. She asks what it opens. He just laughs. The next time we see that key, it's lying on her coffee table. That is the raw material. A failed career, an unequal love, a public humiliation, and a murder she wanted more than anything in this world. Hold that inventory in your mind. Jealousy, rejection, guilt, because the dream we are about to enter is built from every item on this list, and it manages to hide each one. Almost. So, what does a mind do with an inventory like that? Freud had an answer, and it's the one most explanations of this film quietly rely on. In the interpretation of dreams, he described the dream as a disguised fulfillment of a repressed wish. The dreamer takes what reality denied her and stages a corrected version. By that logic, Diane's dream is a consolation machine. And for most of its running time, that reading works. Hold on to it. We'll watch the machine operate in a moment. Carl Jung spent years as Freud's closest collaborator before breaking with him, and he left behind a different model of what the unconscious wants. In Jung's account, the unconscious pushes back. It compensates, correcting the ego's one-sided story about itself, returning precisely the material the ego refuses to hold. That material has a name. In Ion, Jung described the shadow as the personality's rejected side, everything a person will do anything to avoid recognizing as me, and called meeting it a moral problem that challenges the whole ego personality. In psychology and religion, he compressed the principle into 4 words. Everyone carries a shadow. The more that shadow is denied, he argued, the darker and more compact it becomes. And left unrecognized, he warned, it doesn't wait politely. It breaks through when the guard is down. Diane's shadow is easy to locate. It's the woman who envied Camilla, raged at her, and slid an envelope across a table. Betty, sunny, talented, adored, is who Diane insists she is. The shadow is who she was at Winky's. Two theories then, and one dream between them. If Freud is right, the dream should run like silk, every wish granted, every threat dissolved. If Jung is right, something the dream never invited will keep forcing its way in. The dream itself is about to answer. The camera sinks into a pillow, and the correction begins. A woman steps off a plane at LAX, blonde and bright-eyed, flanked by a kindly elderly couple wishing her luck. Her name is Betty. She has come to Hollywood to act, and within minutes she says the quiet part out loud. She's just arrived from Deep River, Ontario, and now she's in this dream place. The film rarely gets accused of subtlety here. The dreamer has rebuilt herself from the moment before anything went wrong, back when the Jitterbug Trophy still meant a future. From there, the dream revises Diane's file item by item, and the pattern is always the same. Take a wound, invert it. The dead aunt is alive again, merely away shooting a movie in Canada, her elegant courtyard apartment left open for Betty like an inheritance without the funeral. The Camilla who outgrew Diane and discarded her arrives as Rita, amnesiac, terrified, hiding in the shower, wearing a name she borrowed from a movie poster. Everything that made Camilla unreachable has been surgically removed. She has no career, no fiancé, no memory, no self at all except the one Betty helps her build. The woman who left now literally cannot leave. She needs Diane. The dream's entire love story runs on that reversal. The career gets the same treatment, twice over. In the audition scene, Betty performs with such raw control that the room is electrified. Casting people whisk her toward bigger things on the spot, while Bob Brooker, the very director who passed on Diane in reality, fumbles for words. The man whose judgment ended her career is rewritten as a fool whose judgment counts for nothing. And the lost role? The dream builds an entire conspiracy subplot to explain it. Shadowy financiers force a director to cast an actress he doesn't want. Talent was never the problem, the dream whispers. The game was rigged. Better still, the director being strong-armed is Adam Kesher, the man who took Camilla. The dream bankrupts him, shuts down his production, and puts his wife in bed with the pool guy. Diane's fantasy doesn't just excuse her failure, it bills the man who witnessed her humiliation for damages. Even the murder gets softened. The hitman, lethal and laconic in reality, reappears in the dream as a bumbling clown whose simple job collapses into slapstick. A stray shot through the wall, a body count that keeps growing, and a vacuum cleaner he finally silences with a bullet, which trips the fire alarm. If the killer is this incompetent, the dream reasons, perhaps the job was never done. Perhaps the girl is still out there, wandering, waiting to be found and loved. Item by item, the machine works. Guilt becomes mystery. Rejection becomes conspiracy. Abandonment becomes devotion. Freud's model, running like silk. Every wish granted, every threat dissolved. Except the film keeps 3 pieces of footage the machine cannot account for. 3 moments that comfort no one, explain nothing away, and grant no wish. Moments the dream produces against its own purpose, as if something else had access to the projector. And the first of them had already played before Betty ever stepped off the plane. Jung warned that a denied shadow breaks through when the guard is down. Watch where the guard is down in this dream. Right at the beginning, before it has even finished building its world. The first leak, behind Winky's. Betty hasn't landed yet. The fantasy is minutes old. Rita has barely hidden herself in the aunt's apartment. When the film cuts, without explanation, to 2 men in a diner. One of them, Dan, is pale and shaking. He's brought his friend here because of a dream. In the dream, he says he's standing in this exact Winky's, at this counter, in this light, and through the wall, behind the diner, there's a face. Then he says the sentence this entire video hangs on.
I hope that I never see that face, ever outside of a dream.
That is repression, spoken aloud, by a character inside a dream. Keep the terrible thing unconscious. Never let it out here, where I live. His friend walks him behind the diner, to get rid of this god-awful feeling, as Dan puts it. And the face slides out from behind the wall, and Dan drops dead on the spot. Now, place the scene on the map. This Winkies is where Diane hired the hitman. The dream has planted its horror at the street address of her guilt, and staged, at that address, a small, brutal parable about what happens to the person who goes looking behind the wall. The consolation machine built paradise everywhere else. Here, at the one location it could least afford to visit, it built a warning sign. The shadow didn't wait for the dream to weaken. It was on site before the dream began. The second leak, the corpse on Sierra Bonita. The middle of the dream runs on a game. Betty and Rita playing detective, hunting Rita's identity. It's the fantasy's favorite toy, mystery instead of guilt. An adventure starring a needed, useful, brilliant Diane. Then a waitress's name tag at Winkies, that diner again, dislodges a name from Rita's broken memory, Diane Selwyn, and the game changes direction. Because the detective plot, the dream's own engine of wish fulfillment, now drives the two women to a shabby courtyard apartment, through a bedroom window, into a dark bedroom, where a woman's body is rotting on the bed. In the dream's logic, the corpse has a name, Diane Selwyn. The dream has looked its own dreamer in the face and pronounced her dead in the very bed where, days later, the real Diane will take her own life. A wish fulfillment machine has no reason to manufacture this image. It comforts no one. It solves nothing. It undoes the entire pretense that Betty is who the dreamer is. The fantasy's central concealment, someone else did this, someone else failed, someone else is finished, ruptures at the exact center of the story. The first leak came from outside the plot. This one arrives through it. The vehicle of the wish has been commandeered to deliver the verdict. The third leak, Club Silencio. At 2 a.m, Rita starts speaking in her sleep. Silencio, silencio. And the two women take a cab to a theater where a man in a suit stands on stage and explains patiently, in 3 languages, what this place is. No hay banda. There is no band. It is all a tape. It is all recorded. A trumpet player mimes. The trumpet keeps sounding after he lowers it. Then a woman sings, Lorando, so beautifully the two of them weep, until she collapses, and the song keeps going without her. The first leak breached the dream's edge. The second breached its plot. This one breaches the medium itself. The dream stands on a stage and announces that it is a dream. Betty, the fantasy's own leading lady, starts convulsing in her seat, her body registering what her story can't admit. And then the dream hands her the object it has been holding back all night, a blue box glowing in her purse. Remember what blue unlocks in the real world. A key that opens nothing, left by a killer, meaning the job is done. The dream has transformed the receipt for Camilla's murder into the one door in the fantasy. And when Rita turns the key, the dreamer's proof of guilt does exactly what it was always going to do. It ends the dream. Diane wakes up in the bed from the dream, the same bed the corpse was lying in, and reality files back in, gray and airless. A neighbor comes by for the last of her things and mentions that 2 detectives have been looking for her. And on the coffee table, exactly where a killer said it would be, sits a small blue key. It opens nothing. It only means the job is done. She got what she wanted more than anything in this world, and now it sits 3 feet from her couch, meaning it, forever. The hallucinations begin, and then the film cuts, one last time behind Winkies, where the figure from Dan's dream sits holding the blue box and lets an old couple out of a paper bag. The kindly pair from the airport, the smiling faces from the jitterbug memory, the last people who saw Diane innocent. They crawl under her front door, tiny and giggling, and chase her screaming down the hall. The fantasy's sweetest ornaments, returned as collectors. Diane reaches the bedroom, raises the gun, and completes the image her own dream showed her on Sierra Bonita, a woman's body on that bed. The dream knew. That was never the mystery. The mystery was whether she could stand to know it awake. In the theater, after everything, A blue-haired woman in a balcony whispers one final word: silencio. The film's readings have argued about her for 25 years. Jung would need no argument for the word itself. Silence is what remains when the ego wins the argument against its own shadow. A victory, he might have said, indistinguishable from the grave. Everyone carries a shadow. Diane's is still sitting behind a diner, holding a blue box, waiting to be seen outside of a dream. If you enjoyed this analysis, a like or a subscription is a simple way to support the channel. Thank you for watching.